All right, now let's talk about Hardhat. So what is it? Well, in a previous video, we showed you how to write Solidity smart contracts inside of Remix. So Remix is an online IDE that lets you create smart contracts and compile them, deploy them, and hand test them all in your browser without, setting anything on your computer. It's really nice. I like to use Remix. But for real professional development where you're constantly iterating on a project, you need something a little more sophisticated than this. And that's really what Hardhat is for. It's an Ethereum development framework for Solidity smart contracts so that you can create smart contracts for Ethereum and other EVM compatible chains. So really a framework is just a suite of tools that gets installed on your computer so that it can speed up smart contract development so that you can do things like save files inside of there. You can add them to source control. You can write tests against your smart contracts, compile them, deploy them to the network, and even put websites inside your Hardhat projects. So Hardhat lets you run Solidity locally. It has really nice debugging tools. You can run a blockchain with the Hardhat ecosystem. And so in this video, what I'm going to do is take the previous smart contract that we did inside of Remix and give you a quick introduction to Hardhat so you can see how you would write this same smart contract with the Hardhat framework so they can get your feet wet before you jump into that capstone project, which we're going to write everything inside of Hardhat for that particular section. All right, so for this section, you definitely are going to need your computer set up for blockchain development. And this is a little bit out of order, okay? We have a dependencies video set up inside the capstone project where you're going to set up all the dependencies on your computer, like your terminal, Node.js, and installing Hardhat. So definitely go check out that video if you want to follow along with everything I'm doing in this video. I know it's a little bit out of order. It's kind of hard to structure some of this stuff in a logical fashion, but you can skip out of that video if you want to follow along. If you already have some of these tools installed, you can go ahead and follow along with this, or you can simply just watch what I'm doing to get an overview of what Hardhat is and how it works. So I'm going to create a new Hardhat project like this. I'm going to say make directory, so mkdir. I'll say Hardhat underscore example. And I'll enter into that newly created directory like this. I'll say cd Hardhat example. And now I'm going to do exactly what they say into the Hardhat documentation here. Okay, we can just actually look at that to follow along, because you can reference the Hardhat documentation to get your hands dirty with this as well. Basically, we're going to say npm init, and you can say dash dash yes. That's just going to say yes to all the things that it wants you to do. This creates a package.json file inside your project. We'll see that in a second. And we'll say npm install dash dash save dev Hardhat. And now you can see this was successfully saved just like this. All right, so now I've opened up my text editor. Again, I'm using Sublime Text. You can go check out the dependencies section to see how to set up your text editor. You can use whatever you'd like. But you can see what was created inside of here. For now, it's just this package.json file, which is what npm uses to save all our dependencies. And you can see that Hardhat was saved here. Now we want to create a new project for Hardhat like this. You can see you can just do npx Hardhat, okay? And do npx Hardhat. And that will create a new Hardhat project for you. Okay, you can run through the installer here, create a basic sample project. Yes, that works. Just hit enter, yes. Hit enter, yes. And then wait for this to finish. All right, and now that's finished. So if we open up our project in our text editor, you can see some new files are created here. We, of course, have this package.json file with some new dependencies inside of it, but we also have all the directories that Hardhat creates for the framework. So you can see it puts the smart contracts inside of here. We have a special smart contract called the greeter. This is just the canonical example smart contract that they use. Okay, you can see the node modules from npm are saved here. Okay, all the libraries basically. Hardhat lets you write scripts. Okay, so you can see those here. And Hardhat also lets you write tests, and you can see a sample test here. So these are the main things that you get in a Hardhat project: the ability to create smart contracts, the ability to write tests for the smart contracts, and then the ability to write scripts. So scripts are essentially just programs that run on your computer, are really quick, simple programs that let you perform routine tasks for smart contracts. And the most common use case for scripts are deployment. So basically taking your smart contracts and taking them off of your computer and then putting them onto a blockchain. And so really what I want to do right now is just speed run through this process to show you how we, created smart contracts inside of Remix and we compiled them and deployed them in our browser, and how you can do that in Hardhat. We're going to get a lot more advanced, okay, inside of the Capstone project, but I just want to speed run through this so that you can see how it works. So you're not in too over your head whenever we start coding out things in the Capstone project. We'll use that as reinforcement for some of the concepts that we introduced here. Okay, so let's start off with the contract itself. So we basically want to recode out this contract from Remix. I'll just pull it off my screen here so it's not distracting. Okay, and so inside of here, we're going to delete this greeter. We're going to create a new contract here inside the contract directory called my contract. So contracts, my contract.sol. Okay, and you can see that here. And now we're just going to code out the exact smart contract that we had inside of that previous section. So we'll say, let's just see here. We have a Hardhat config, which tells us which Solidity version we're going to use. So we'll use version 0.8.4. Okay. Say pragma Solidity 0.8.4. Okay. And then we'll say, I'll bump this up so you can see it. Contract, my contract. All right. Open curly braces. We'll have string value. All right. We'll do the constructor. And we'll say value equals my value. We'll say hello world. Okay. And then we'll create the get function. Public view returns string memory. All right. And we'll say return value. And then function set string memory value public. And then we'll say value equals value. All right, that's it. So in Remix, we were able to compile the smart contract with this right here. We were able to go here and do this compile step. Again, compilation is when you take smart contracts and take the human readable code and turn it into machine readable code. And this is the step where we also find out whether or not we had any errors. So we can say npx hardhat compile, and it worked. Okay, so it's giving you this license identifier. You can just ignore this for now. We'll fix this in the Capstone project. I don't want to worry about it just yet. So now we've compiled it, and we know that it's compiled properly. There's no issues with the code. So now we can deploy it. If we're going to do that, we need to actually have a blockchain running. So, with Remix, we had a blockchain running in our browser. And the good news is Hardhat will let us create a blockchain on our computer and spin it up really quickly like this. So I'm going to open up a new tab. And I'm going to say npx hardhat node. Okay. And whenever that happens, boom, you have a local blockchain running. All right. So you can see that it's given us some accounts here. You can see the public keys and the private keys, or the addresses and the private keys, I should say. Each one has 1,000 Ether. Okay. And you can see that it's running at localhost port 8545. Now I want to point you to an important place in the Hardhat architecture that I saw a second ago, but I'll bring it up here, the Hardhat config file. So this is the file where you save all the settings for your Hardhat project. Okay, it does things like save the Solidity version. Okay, Solidity version 0.8.4. This tells the compiler which Solidity version to use. Okay, and it also saves your connection to the blockchain. So if you want to connect your project to your local node, or the Ethereum mainnet, or some other EVM compatible chain or a test network, you can configure those settings here. So I can add a setting for my local network like this. All right. I use this networks key. Okay. So underneath the Solidity version, I can say networks, and then I can open these curly braces here and say localhost and just give it an empty object. So an open curly brace and a closed curly brace. So I'll show you in the Hardhat documentation. We'll get into this later in the Capstone project, but basically, you can specify different networks. Okay. Like this, you can give it networks like this. So this is the Robson test network, and you can give it the URL for the API, all right, or the RPC URL for the Ethereum node like this, and then tell it the accounts. But for local development with the Hardhat node, you don't have to get fancy. It understands pretty much how to deploy to its own Hardhat node out of the box. So for local blockchain development. It's pretty easy. You can just add this default network right here. So now let's talk about how to deploy this smart contract to that blockchain that we have running now that we have the connection wired up here. So what you can do is go to the scripts and look at this sample script. Okay, so this, you can do lots of different things with scripts in Hardhat, but this also lets you deploy smart contracts. So this had the greeter smart contract inside of it. We're just going to change this. So we're going to change greeter to my contract here. All right, and we'll explain this a lot more when we get to the Capstone project, what's happening here. But for now, let's just say my contract, and then let's replace my contract here, and then let's take this out. Okay, and let's change this to my contract. Say my contract. We could use the boilerplate code. And then my contract address. All right. So that's how you create a migration script or a deployment script. It's pretty simple. Okay, we can just use the boilerplate that's inside here, the sample script. So then you can deploy to the network like this. Let's just say npx hardhat run -- network. So this tells you which network to use. So we did the network configuration here, localhost -- network localhost. And then we're telling it we want to run a script, so we have to tell it where the script exists. So we say scripts. Okay, that's the scripts directory, which you see here. And then we say sample script. All right. And boom, there you go. My contract was deployed, and here's the address. Okay, so now you can see the transaction went through, and here the contract was deployed. Here's the block, and here's the address of the contract that was just created. All right, so now what I want to do is show you how to interact with this smart contract inside your terminal or inside the Hardhat console. So just like we did in Remix, where we click some buttons around to see the value that's contained inside the smart contract, and we clicked a button to update that value, I'll show you how to do it inside your Hardhat console. So you can open the console like this, npx hardhat console, and we'll say -- network localhost. All right, just make sure that's one here, network localhost. All right, and so what this is going to do is give us a JavaScript environment where we can write JavaScript commands to interact with that smart contract. So we're going to use ethers.js for this. Again, we got a separate video on ethers, and we're going to get a lot more in-depth into all this stuff whenever we start coding out the Capstone project. I'm just going to speed run through it right now so you kind of get the general idea. Don't worry if you don't understand everything, you can just follow along or just watch, and we're going to get a lot of reinforcement when we code through the Capstone project. But we can fetch the smart contract from the blockchain like this. We can just say const my contract equals await, and we'll say ethers get contract at, you can even see the autocomplete kind of happening for me. And we're going to put the quotations in here and say my contract, capital M, capital C contract. All right, and then we'll do a comma. And then we're going to get the address, which is right here inside of our server log for the Hardhat node. So we'll get the contract address pasted in. All right, and now you can see this undefined. Sometimes that confuses people. This is the logged value. It's not the actual return value that is saved with this variable. We say my contract. Okay, this is the actual JavaScript object for the contract. So we can get the address like this, my contract address. All right, it works properly. Now we can read the value of the variable like this. We say await my contract get hello world, and we can set the value like this: await my contract set. We can say foobar. All right, and then we can get the value again: await my contract get and foobar. Awesome. So that's basically the same thing we just did in Remix, all inside of the Hardhat console with the Hardhat framework, so you can see what it's like to do things in your browser versus on your computer. Now, really quick, I'm going to show you how to exit the Hardhat console. We say exit, and you'll exit the console, and now you're back in your terminal where you can execute real terminal commands, not inside the Hardhat console. So there's a lot more that you can do with Hardhat. You can, write tests for smart contracts, which we're going to do throughout the Capstone project. You can write some more advanced scripts besides just deployments, which we're going to do. You can add more smart contracts. You can put websites inside of it. You're going to see all that as we start building it out. But I want to give you an introduction to this video, and you can see how it compares to browser-based development with Remix, which we did in the last video. And so that's a quick overview of the Hardhat framework, what it is, why it's important. Again, we're getting a lot of reinforcement later, but that's a good intro, and I'll catch you in the next video.